Hello, I'm Anamika Twyman-Ghoshal.
And I'm Danielle Carkin Lacorazza.
We are criminology faculty at Stonehill College and want to talk to you today about anti-racist and decolonized teaching and learning.
Before we begin, we want to note that we do acknowledge our own biases and note that we have not lived the experiences of Black Americans, as I am a white woman.
And I'm an immigrant, mixed-race woman.
However, as faculty and educators, we have a responsibility to bring awareness about racial injustice and disparities into our classrooms. As criminologists, we feel especially responsible for initiating and sustaining change as it is directly related to our discipline. We do want to acknowledge that this is just a start and that there is much more learning and growth that needs to happen for all of us, including us.
The discrimination and disparities seen in the criminal justice system are a result of systemic racism, not a few bad apples. Policies in place have exacerbated these disparities, like the war on drugs, Get Tough on Crime, School to Prison Pipeline, and many others. Let's take a look at how these disparities manifest themselves. Here are just some examples.
In this year, 2020, up through August 22nd, there have only been 12 days where police did not kill someone. And looking at this, you can see that most days there were more than one killing. The results provide evidence of a significant bias in the killing of unarmed Black Americans relative to unarmed white Americans. In that, the probability of being Black, unarmed, and shot by police is about 3.49 times the probability of being white, unarmed, and shot by police on average.
Looking at comparisons to other wealthy nations, US police kill civilians at much higher rates.
So, is this about crime?
Well, when we look at violent crime rates and police killing rates, there is no identifiable pattern. Note that this doesn't mean that police killing rates are decreasing over time. What this chart actually plots is the numbers per the 50 largest cities in the United States. There are about 1,100 police killings per year in the United States. So what about criminal accountability?
When looking at police killings, there is minimal accountability for their actions. 99% of killings by police from 2013 to 2019 have not resulted in officers being charged with a crime. In few instances, officers have been let go or suspended without pay pending investigation.
So African Americans in the United States are more likely than white Americans to be arrested. Once arrested, they're more likely to be convicted. And once convicted, they're more likely to experience lengthy prison sentences.
In an interesting study looking at how officers speak to community members during stops, a study found that police officers speak significantly less respectfully to Black than white community members in everyday traffic stops, even after controlling for officer race, infraction severity, stop location, and stop outcome.
African American adults are 5.9 times as likely to be incarcerated than whites, and Hispanics are 3.1 times as likely. As of 2001, 1 in every 3 Black boys born in that year could expect to go to prison in his lifetime, as could 1 in every 6 Latinos, compared to 1 in every 17 white boys.
So we've all heard the phrase, when you do the crime, you do the time. However, upon release, the punishment continues through disenfranchisement, particularly for African Americans. 1 in 13 African Americans of voting age is disenfranchised, a rate more than 4 times greater than that of non-African Americans. Over 7.4% of the adult African American population is disenfranchised, compared to 1.8% of the non-African American population.
In 4 states, Florida, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, more than 1 in 5 African Americans cannot vote.
However, Florida recently changed this law and have allowed released individuals to vote, but there's still much debate and controversy over whether or not this was a good idea. It was a good idea.
We hear the counter slogan, Blue Lives Matter, talking about things such as police deaths.
In 2019, 89 law enforcement officers were killed in the line of duty. Of those deaths, 48 were a result of felonious acts, while 41 were a result of accidents. Of the felonious deaths, 15 were done conducting traffic violation stops. 5 were unprovoked attacks, and 2 were ambushed. This is a significantly less number compared to the 1,100 African Americans that were killed.
So this is a call to action. We are advocating for a commitment to anti-racist and decolonized teaching and learning. What can we do? For faculty, we need to first start by acknowledging our own biases and privileges. We need to practice active bias control. We need to be self-aware and self-critical. Everyone, every single one of us, carries biases because it is a systemic problem. Knowing what your biases are is the first step towards becoming an anti-racist. This requires daily effort. We need to revise courses and curricula. We cannot be part of the apparatus that produces and reproduces social and racial inequalities. We need to question the legalistic definition of crime so as not to perpetuate historical forms of oppression. Faculty need to critically review the materials that we were taught and to identify how they perpetuate systems of injustice. We have to identify and lay bare the racial undertones of theories, of writings, and other work. We need to be aware that curricula are grounded in Eurocentric traditions. That means that they are based on European and white thinkers and are implicitly colonizing. So therefore, we need to democratize and internationalize our materials and what we teach. We need to include non-Western approaches. We also need to amplify minoritized voices. We need to simply diversify the ivory tower by drawing on the expertise of Black and Brown faculty, but not by increasing their labor. We should be incorporating materials and representations and representing the scholarship, research, and firsthand experience of people of color that can help fill the many gaps left by mainstream textbooks. For instance, this is really particularly important given that about 40% of criminal justice degree recipients are African American or Latinx.
We should also incorporate high-impact learning activities. These give students the opportunity to employ their critical thinking and analytical skills while connecting with the material on a more personal level. Coursework should provide the students with an opportunity to critique, analyze, and improve the tools, policies, and programs that exist and exacerbate structural racism. Assignments that allow students to identify the historical biases that remain inherent in the policies and practices of our country today will further direct their knowledge toward the origins of today's disparities. Once students gain these valuable skills to recognize biases, they can then strategize ways to implement reform and make changes on a local, state, or national level. We should also aim to develop community partnerships. These partnerships provide opportunities for students to experience theoretical material in a real-world setting. Many community agencies are seeking to make positive changes, such as serving historically underprivileged individuals and youth, assisting justice-involved individuals, and those reintegrating into the population. These agencies are often underfunded and overworked. Students can work to fill the voids of these agencies to ensure that the critical work is being done while simultaneously helping students develop skills to be future change makers. Projects provide an array of tangible learning opportunities like advocating, organizing, evaluating, and researching.
This is also a call to action for students. Like faculty, students need to acknowledge your own biases and privileges. Be self-aware. Be self-critical, be open to new knowledge and to changing your mind and your worldview. Many of us learn our values and beliefs from our families and our communities, which has our perspectives and outlooks very siloed. Now it's time to question how siloed you are and what you can do to expand and broaden your views.
You must also take agency in your learning and question what is being taught. Feel free and empowered to ask more questions and ask yourself, what are you not being taught? Who and what is being omitted in your lessons and the textbook? Take the time to look for reliable additional resources on the content being discussed and think critically about the differences. Ask questions.
Speak up and hold yourself and others accountable. When hearing racist communications, your voice is your best tool. While we are not suggesting you engage in aggressive dialogue, we are recommending that you actively address racial injustice by speaking up. Rather than being a bystander, be an upstander.
An upstander is someone who takes positive actions to correct the wrongs they witness. Some strategies include interrupting, questioning, educating, and echoing. Use phrases like, "Excuse me, can I clarify what I think I heard? Have you considered the implications of your actions or words? I'd like to share a different perspective." Or, "I agree with that, let me add." Also be willing to share data, facts, videos, and your own experiences to provide a different perspective.
So ultimately what we're saying is that faculty must make their courses and curriculum actively anti-racist. Many have already begun this work. However, it's high time for us to reach a critical mass, and we all need to take on the mandate. It's time for us to shift our focus from criminal
to justice.
The PowerPoint used in this session is linked below. Inside, you will find links to all the resources that we used. We hope that this will help initiate discussions and guide us all forward to ensure that Black lives matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.